After my grandmother died, my aunt stopped acting sad. She dropped papers on our table and said, "It's already done." My mother couldn't breathe. My cousin moved in next door. I installed a camera after he left. She thought she was signing tax papers. My mother was sitting at the kitchen table when my aunt walked in. There were still sympathy cards stacked near the window. Someone had brought food after the funeral, but most of it sat untouched in the fridge because my mother could barely eat. Then my aunt came in with a folder. No hug. No soft voice. No, how are you holding up? Just the front door opening, her shoes tapping across the floor, and papers sliding onto the table like she had been waiting for this exact moment. My mother looked up and whispered, "What is that?" My aunt did not sit down. She placed the papers in front of her and said, "It's already done." My mother stared at her. "What's already done?" "The house situation." The house situation. That was what she called it. Not my grandmother's home. Not the place my mother had taken care of for years. Not the only real safety we had ever known. Just a situation. I reached for the papers because my mother's hands were shaking too badly. At first, the words looked cold and confusing. Ownership. Transfer. Interest. Deed. I kept reading, hoping I was misunderstanding. Then I saw my cousin's name. Tyler. My aunt's son. According to the papers, my grandmother had signed over half of the duplex to him months before she died. Half. Not through a family meeting. Not through a normal inheritance discussion. Not after everyone agreed it made sense. Half of the property had been signed away while my grandmother was already forgetting bills, repeating questions, and asking what day it was 3 times before lunch. My mother shook her head slowly. No, she wouldn't do this. My aunt folded her arms. She did. She promised me I would be safe here. My aunt's face barely moved. Promises don't matter. Paperwork does. That sentence stayed with me. Promises don't matter. Paperwork does. Because my grandmother, Dorothy, had built that duplex to be a safety net. It was never meant to make anyone rich. It was a simple side-by-side home with 2 front doors, a shared driveway, and 1 long porch divided by habit more than anything official. My grandmother lived on one side. My mother and I lived on the other. For years, it worked. My mother paid what she could, and she handled most of the upkeep. She shoveled snow before sunrise. She cleaned gutters. She called repairmen. She repainted porch rails, fixed little leaks, planted flowers, and checked on my grandmother every day. My grandmother never treated her like a tenant. She treated her like the daughter who stayed. My Aunt Cynthia was different. She came around when it suited her. A holiday here. A short visit there. Always with opinions, rarely with help. If my mother was tired, Cynthia said she was dramatic. If my grandmother needed something, Cynthia suddenly had plans. That was how it had always been. Until my grandmother started slipping. At first, it was easy to explain away. She misplaced her glasses. She forgot she had already called that morning. She left tea cooling on the counter and made another cup because she thought she had never made the first one. My mother worried, but she tried not to panic. "She's getting older," she told me. "It doesn't mean the worst." Then my grandmother started getting confused about bills. She would call my mother crying, convinced the electricity was about to be shut off. My mother would rush next door and find the bill already paid, the receipt tucked under a magnet on the fridge. Some days, Grandma was still herself. Sharp. Funny. Stubborn. She corrected my mother's cooking from across the room and laughed when I rolled my eyes. Other days, she looked lost in her own kitchen. That was when Cynthia suddenly became helpful. She started coming over with groceries. She offered to take Grandma on drives. She sorted the mail because she said bills were stressing Grandma out. My mother was exhausted, so any help looked like kindness. I hate admitting that now. We were so tired that we mistook interest for love. One afternoon, I saw Cynthia helping my grandmother into her car. Grandma was holding her purse in both hands and looked confused. "Where are you going?" I asked. Cynthia smiled too quickly. "Just errands." Grandma looked at me and said, "Your aunt says there are forms." I frowned. "What forms?" Cynthia answered before Grandma could. "Nothing serious. Just old paperwork." You know how she worries. My grandmother nodded because she trusted her. That was the cruelest part. She trusted her. When Grandma died months later, my mother broke in a quiet way. She didn't scream. She didn't collapse. She just moved through the house like every room had gotten heavier. She folded Grandma's clothes slowly. She kept finding little things and sitting down with them in her lap. A grocery list. A scarf. A chipped mug. Every object became another goodbye. Then Cynthia came with a folder. And grief turned into paperwork. My mother read the deed over and over like the words might change if she stared long enough. This can't be right, she said. Cynthia tapped one nail on the table. It is right. Why would Tyler get half? Because Mom wanted him to have something. He barely came here. He was her grandson. So was I her daughter, my mother said, and her voice cracked. Cynthia looked at her with cold patience. You still get your half. That was the trap. My grandmother's will left the remaining share to my mother. But the deed Cynthia had arranged earlier gave Tyler half while Grandma was still alive. So after the funeral, the property was split. My mother owned half. Tyler owned half. He could not sell the entire property without her, but he had enough control to make her life miserable. My mother asked, "What does Tyler want?" Cynthia picked up her folder. "He'll talk to you himself." 2 days later, a truck pulled into the driveway. Tyler stepped out like he had won something. He carried boxes into my grandmother's side of the duplex. Not enough boxes to look like a normal move. Just enough to make a point. A speaker. A duffel bag. A gaming chair. A cooler. A television. My mother stood on our porch with her arms wrapped around herself. "What are you doing?" she asked. Tyler smiled. "Moving into my side. That was your grandmother's home. Now it's half mine. You can't just." "Actually," he said, cutting her off, "I can." I remember how my mother looked at me then. She looked frightened in a way I had never seen before. Not because Tyler had shouted. Because the house itself no longer felt safe. A few minutes later, music started playing from his side. Not loud enough to call anyone. Not loud enough to prove anything. Just loud enough for my mother to hear it through the wall. That was how it began. Small reminders. He was there. He had rights. He wanted her gone. And Cynthia had handed him the key. For the first week, Tyler acted almost polite. That made it worse. He waved from the porch with a smile that never reached his eyes. He left trash near our side of the walkway and pretended it was an accident. He parked too close behind my mother's car and said the driveway was shared. My mother tried to stay calm. "He's immature," she told me. "Maybe if we don't react, he'll get bored." But Tyler was not bored. He was patient. The first serious argument happened over the driveway. My mother had an early shift. She was already exhausted because Tyler's music had thumped through the wall past midnight. She grabbed her purse, stepped outside, and froze. His car was parked directly behind hers. Not slightly in the way. Completely blocking her in. She knocked on his door for almost 10 minutes. When he finally opened it, his face was smug. "What?" he said. "You need to move your car." He leaned against the door frame. "Why?" "Because I have work. It's a shared driveway. You blocked me in." He glanced past her like he was seeing the problem for the first time. "Huh. Guess I did. Please move it. Give me a minute." He took 20 minutes. My mother stood there clutching her keys, trying not to cry. When he finally moved the car, he did it slowly, stopping twice to check his phone. She was late. That evening, she came home with red eyes. I asked, "Did they say something at work?" She set her purse down. "It's fine." "It's not fine." I said it's fine. Then she went to her room and closed the door. I heard her crying later. Quietly. That became our new normal. Noise through the walls. Cars in the driveway. Tyler's friends coming and going. Laughter outside my mother's window. Comments thrown from the porch whenever she walked by. "Still here? Packing yet?" "My mom says you're emotional." I see what she means. My mother stopped sitting outside. She stopped gardening. She stopped going near Grandma's old door, even though for years she had walked in and out without thinking. She said it felt like trespassing now. One night, Tyler had friends over. The music was loud enough to make the wall vibrate. My mother sat on the edge of her bed with both hands pressed to her temples. "I can't keep doing this," she whispered. I went next door before she could stop me. Tyler opened the door with a drink in his hand. Behind him, 2 of his friends were laughing on the couch. I said, "Turn it down." Tyler smiled. "Ask nicely." "My mother needs sleep." "Then maybe your mother should move. This is her home. Half of it is mine. You know how you got that half." His smile twitched. For 1 second, something ugly showed through. Then he leaned closer and lowered his voice. "Careful." I stepped back because I knew he wanted a reaction. He wanted me yelling. He wanted something he could twist. When I went home, my mother was standing in the hallway. "What did he say?" she asked. "Nothing. Jennifer." I hated how small her voice sounded. I said, "He wants us gone." She looked at the wall between the units. We don't have anywhere to go. That was the truth under everything. We could not just leave. Rent was too high. My mother's savings were thin. I had steady income, but not enough to rescue us overnight. Every legal conversation led back to money we did not have. A legal aid office told us we could challenge the deed, but it would take medical records, witnesses, time, and money. A real estate attorney told us the same thing in a different way. My mother owned half. Tyler owned half. He could not sell the entire place without her agreement, but he could try to force a sale through court. We could fight it, but proving my grandmother had been manipulated would not be simple. My mother nodded through that meeting like she understood. Then she cried in the car. Not loudly. Just silent tears rolling down her face while she stared through the windshield. I wanted someone official to step in. I wanted a letter, a judge, a police officer, anyone to say, "This is wrong. We'll handle it." Nobody did. So Tyler kept pushing. His plan became obvious when a developer started buying older homes nearby. Tyler mentioned it constantly. "You know what this lot is worth? You're sitting on money you don't even know how to use. My mom says you're being selfish." One afternoon, he caught my mother carrying groceries. He leaned on the porch railing and said, "You could walk away with something if you cooperate." My mother did not answer. He continued, "Or we can do this the hard way." She set the bags down and looked at him. "Your grandmother wanted this house to stay in the family." Tyler laughed. "Grandma wanted a lot of things. She's not here." My mother flinched. That night, she did not eat dinner. Over the next month, she changed. Her face thinned. Her shoulders curved inward. She stopped wearing the little earrings she always wore because she said she did not feel like herself. Then came the broken window. It was late when something hit the front of our side of the duplex. The crack snapped through the house. My mother screamed. I ran into the living room and found the lower pane of the front window broken. Glass scattered across the floor. Outside, Tyler's friends were laughing. One of them said, "It slipped." Tyler walked over, looked at the window, and shrugged. "Accidents happen." My mother stood behind me in her robe, trembling. "You need to pay for that," I said. Tyler tilted his head. "Prove it was us." The next morning, my mother swept the last pieces of glass into a dustpan with shaking hands. I said, "We need cameras." She looked up quickly. "No. I don't want to make things worse. They already are worse. He'll blame us. He already does." That afternoon, I bought a small porch security camera. It was meant for basic home safety. I placed it where it could see our front walkway, the shared outdoor area, and part of the porch on the other side. I told myself it was for protection. A record. A little proof in a situation where everyone kept telling us proof was hard. That night, Tyler sat outside with two friends, Eric and Brandon. I had the camera feed open on my laptop because I could not sleep anymore without checking. Then Tyler said it. Clear enough to make my body go still. She thought she was signing tax papers. Eric laughed. "No way." Tyler leaned back. "I'm serious." My mom told her it was just paperwork to keep the property clean. She barely even looked at it. My hands went cold. Brandon said, "That's messed up." Tyler replied, "That's business." I stared at the screen. My cousin looked proud. For the first time, I had something. Not enough to fix everything, but enough to make someone else look. I did not act right away. I always thought if I ever got proof, I would explode. I imagined myself storming next door, shoving the recording in Tyler's face, calling Cynthia, calling every relative, forcing everyone to admit the truth. Instead, I sat there silently. Then I watched the clip again. It showed Tyler saying the line about tax papers. It showed his arrogance. It showed enough to make me sick. But I knew my family. Cynthia would say he was joking. Tyler would say he was exaggerating. Relatives would say I misunderstood. People who do not want the truth always ask for more proof, then call the proof cruel when they finally get it. So I waited. For days, I checked the recordings. Most of it was ordinary. Doors closing. Footsteps. Tyler's friends arriving. Music. My mother carrying groceries quickly with her head down. Every time I saw her on camera, something inside me tightened. She had started moving through her own home like a guest who had overstayed. One evening, an older neighbor stopped her near the walkway. "Are you all right?" she asked. My mother smiled too fast. "I'm fine. You don't look fine. Just tired." The neighbor glanced toward Tyler's side. "He's been loud." My mother lowered her voice. "I don't want trouble." "You already have trouble," the neighbor said. My mother had no answer. I watched that later and cried. Not because it was dramatic. Because someone else had seen it. A week later, Tyler had Ashley over. Ashley was his fiancée. She seemed polite and quiet, the kind of person who smiled carefully in uncomfortable rooms. Tyler acted completely different around her. Clean shirt. Soft voice. No shouting. No comments toward my mother. He even carried her bag inside like he was auditioning for the role of decent man. My mother watched from the window and said, "That poor girl has no idea." I said, "Maybe she does." My mother shook her head. Not really. Ashley's father, Douglas, was part of the reason Tyler was acting so polished. Douglas had money, influence, and a protective streak everyone knew about. He had already helped Tyler with plans for a business, and everyone in Cynthia's side of the family talked about it like Tyler was finally becoming someone important. Cynthia loved saying, "My son is getting what he deserves." The problem was, Tyler did have a plan. Just not the one Ashley thought. A few nights after Ashley visited, Tyler had Eric and Brandon over again. I almost closed the laptop because I was exhausted, but then I heard Ashley's name. I sat up. Eric said, "So you're really going through with the wedding?" Tyler laughed. "Of course." Brandon said, "You don't sound excited." "I'm excited about her dad's money." My stomach dropped. Eric laughed awkwardly. "That's cold." Tyler said, "It's smart. Her family thinks I'm some hardworking, respectful guy." They ate it up. Her dad already promised to help with the business. Brandon asked, "And Ashley?" Tyler waved his hand like she was a small detail. "Ashley believes what she wants to believe." Eric said, "Man." Tyler leaned forward. "Once the money lands, my mom and I are keeping the important stuff away from Ashley. If things don't work out later, she won't touch anything." Even his friends went quiet. Tyler continued, "People only get played when they want to believe you're good." Then he laughed. That laugh did something to me. It was the same laugh he used when my mother begged him to move his car. The same laugh from the porch. The same laugh after the window broke. The same laugh after he said my grandmother thought she was signing tax papers. I watched the recording again. Then I watched the earlier one. We could spend years trying to prove my grandmother had been manipulated. We could bury ourselves in debt fighting a deed Tyler might still use to force a sale. We could watch my mother disappear inside the house her own mother had tried to leave her. Or I could show Tyler to the people he was fooling next. I struggled with it more than my family would ever believe. They tell everyone now that I was cold and calculated from the beginning. That is not how it felt. It felt like standing at the edge of a cliff with my mother behind me and Tyler walking toward us with a smile. I thought about Ashley. I thought about Douglas giving money because he believed his daughter was building a future with someone honest. I thought about my grandmother asking, "What forms?" before my aunt took her to sign away half the house. Then I thought about my mother whispering, "We don't have anywhere to go." That made the decision for me. I saved the clips. I did not add music. I did not add dramatic captions. I did not twist his words. I only cut the empty parts and kept the truth. Tyler talking about my grandmother and the tax papers. Tyler talking about my mother breaking. Tyler talking about Ashley's father's money. Tyler talking about keeping things away from Ashley. The file was under 6 minutes. I found Ashley's account first. Then Douglas's public business page. I stared at the message box for a long time. I typed one sentence. "Please watch this before the wedding." That was all. I attached the file. From the other side of the wall, Tyler's music started again. The bass was low and steady, like it belonged inside our house. My mother's bedroom door opened down the hall. I heard her walk slowly toward the bathroom, tired in a way no one her age should have sounded. I hit send. Then I closed the laptop. Nothing happened right away. No instant justice. No dramatic ending. Just our quiet house, Tyler's noise through the wall, and my own breathing. But by the next afternoon, everything changed. The first sign was silence. Tyler's side of the duplex was usually noisy by late morning. Doors slamming. Games playing. Music. His voice. His friends. That day, there was nothing. My mother noticed before I did. She stood in the kitchen with a mug in both hands and said, "Do you hear that?" I listened. No bass. No voices. No Tyler. For the first time in weeks, the wall between the units was just a wall. Around noon, a truck pulled into the driveway. My mother looked out the window and froze. "What is it?" I asked. She stepped back from the curtain. "That's Ashley's father." Douglas got out first. He was not shouting, which somehow made him more intimidating. He moved like someone who had already decided what would happen and did not need to perform anger for anyone. 2 men got out after him. Then Ashley stepped out of the passenger side. Her face was pale. She did not look toward our window. She looked at Tyler's door like it was something she had to survive opening. My mother whispered, "Oh no." I said nothing. Because I knew. Douglas knocked once. No answer. Ashley took out a key. That small detail hurt more than I expected. She had a key to that side of the duplex. She had probably imagined a life there, or at least a future close enough to it to make the key feel normal. Then she opened the door and walked inside with her father. For almost 2 hours, they carried her things out. Clothes. Boxes. A small desk. Framed pictures. A stack of wedding planning folders that Ashley held tightly before placing them in the truck herself. She did not cry where we could see her. That made it worse. I kept thinking she had probably already done all her crying somewhere private, somewhere Tyler could not turn it into a debate. Tyler came home while they were loading the last few things. He pulled in fast, jumped out, and immediately started talking with his hands. "What are you doing?" Douglas stood near the truck. "You know what we're doing." Tyler looked at Ashley. "Are you serious right now?" She did not answer. He stepped toward her, and Douglas moved slightly in front of her. Not aggressively. Just enough. Tyler stopped. I could not hear every word from inside, but I saw his face change. Confusion first. Then anger. Then panic. He pointed toward our side of the duplex. My mother stepped away from the window like he could see through the wall. Douglas said something low. Tyler stopped pointing. Ashley took something from her pocket. For a second, I did not understand. Then sunlight caught the ring. She placed it on the porch railing. Tyler stared at it. Ashley finally spoke loudly enough for the camera to catch later. "I watched the video." Tyler said, "You don't understand the context." Ashley shook her head. "I understood enough." He tried to follow her to the truck. Douglas said, "Do not make this worse." That was all. Not a threat. Not a scene. Just a line drawn clearly enough that even Tyler felt it. They drove away with Ashley's belongings. Tyler stood in the driveway staring after them. Then he turned toward our side of the duplex. I pulled the curtain closed. My mother whispered, "Jennifer, what did you do?" I could have lied. For 1 second, I almost did. Then I said, "I sent the video." Her face changed. Fear first. Then shock. Then something I did not expect. Relief. It passed quickly, like she was ashamed to feel it, but I saw it. She sat down at the table and put her hand over her mouth. "You shouldn't have had to do that," she said. "I know. He'll blame you." "I know. Tyler did blame me." Cynthia called first. I did not answer. Then she texted. "How dare you?" Then another. "You had no right." Then another. "You destroyed your cousin's future." Soon, my phone was lighting up with relatives I had not heard from in years. People who never called when my mother was losing weight from stress suddenly had plenty of time to lecture me about family loyalty. One aunt wrote, "Property disagreements happen. You took it outside the family." A cousin wrote, "Tyler made mistakes, but you were malicious." Another message said, "Your grandmother would be ashamed." That one almost got me. Not because I believed it. Because they used her name. After everything Cynthia had done, after the papers, after the pressure, after the manipulation, they still reached for my grandmother like a weapon. I showed my mother the message. She read it once, set the phone down, and said no, she wouldn't. Her voice was quiet, but it was the strongest she had sounded in months. The fallout did not stop with the wedding. Douglas had already given Tyler money toward the business Tyler kept bragging about. Not a life-changing fortune, but enough to matter. Enough that paperwork existed. Enough that Douglas wanted it handled immediately. A letter arrived for Tyler within days. I never saw the whole thing, but Tyler made sure everyone heard about it. He shouted on the phone from his porch, blaming Ashley, blaming Douglas, blaming me, blaming my mother, blaming everyone except himself. The letter demanded repayment and warned of civil action over unpaid loans and misrepresentation. Suddenly, Tyler was no longer the family success story. He was Cynthia's problem to solve. His friends stopped coming over as much. Eric disappeared first. Brandon came once, stayed 20 minutes, then left looking uncomfortable. The porch that had been Tyler's little throne became empty. Then Cynthia came back to our door. This time, she knocked. My mother and I looked at each other. I opened the door but kept my body in the doorway. Cynthia stood there with a tight face and tired eyes. Tyler was behind her, staring at the ground. My aunt said, "We need to talk." My mother came up behind me. "About what?" Cynthia's mouth twisted like the words hurt. "Tyler's share." Nobody spoke. Then she said, "We're willing to sell it." My mother blinked. I said, "You mean the half you said was already done?" Cynthia glared at me. Do you want the offer or not? Tyler muttered, we need cash. Cynthia shot him a look. My mother's hand found my arm and squeezed. That was the first time the power shifted. For months, they treated my mother like an obstacle. A poor, tired woman they could pressure out of her home. Now they were standing on her porch, asking her to buy back peace. We did not agree immediately. My mother wanted to. I could see it in her face. She wanted the nightmare over so badly she might have signed anything just to make them leave. But I remembered Cynthia dropping papers on our table. I remembered what she said. Promises don't matter. Paperwork does. So this time, we got paperwork too. We called the attorney again. We brought him everything. The deed. The will. The offer. The recordings. The messages. He listened, asked questions, and told us what to do carefully. Do not hand them money without a proper closing, he said. My mother nodded. I wrote it down. We went to the credit union. I used my income to support my mother's mortgage request, and her long payment history helped more than she expected. It was not easy, but it was possible. The amount Cynthia and Tyler asked for was far below what the share could have been worth if they had time to wait. They did not have time. That was their mistake. Cruel people often think pressure only works in one direction. 2 weeks later, the documents were signed. Tyler sold his half. My mother became the full owner of the duplex. The day everything was filed, my mother sat in the car outside the office with the folder in her lap. She kept touching the papers with her fingertips. Then she whispered, "It's mine." I said, "It's yours. All of it. All of it." She closed her eyes. For a moment, the weight left her face. Not all of it. Grief was still there. Exhaustion was still there. The damage would take time. But the fear was smaller. That night, Tyler moved out. There was no dramatic final fight. No shouting match worth remembering. He packed quickly and angrily. Cynthia helped him carry boxes while refusing to look at our windows. At one point, Tyler stopped near the shared walkway and looked at me. "You happy?" he asked. I said no. That seemed to confuse him. He expected me to gloat. He wanted me to become the villain he was telling everyone I already was. So I told him the truth. "I'm tired." He gave a bitter laugh. "You ruined everything." I looked past him at my mother's side of the duplex. The curtains were open. The kitchen light was warm. For the first time in months, she was moving around without flinching every time a car door closed. I said no. "I showed people what you said." His face hardened. He did not answer. He just left. The quiet after that felt unreal. For the first few nights, my mother kept waking up anyway. Her body had gotten used to bracing for noise. Sometimes she stood in the hallway and listened, like she did not trust the silence yet. We cleaned my grandmother's old side slowly. Not like erasing her. Like giving the rooms back their dignity. My mother kept some things, donated others, and cried over objects that made no sense until she explained them. A chipped mug. A recipe card. A sweater missing a button. Every little thing had a story. The broken window was repaired. The porch was swept. The trash was gone. The driveway was empty. One evening, my mother brought 2 cups of tea outside. We sat on the front porch while the light faded. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Then my mother said, "Your grandmother wanted this." I looked at her. She nodded toward the house. Not the fight. Not the hurt. But this. Us being safe. I swallowed hard. I think so too. My phone buzzed. Another message from a relative. I did not open it. My mother noticed. "Is it them again?" "Probably." She looked down at her tea. "Do you regret it?" I knew what she meant. Not the house. Not protecting her. The video. Ashley. Douglas. The family split. Everything that happened after I hit send. I could have given the easy answer. Instead, I gave the honest one. "I regret that it had to be me," I said. "I don't regret that the truth came out." My mother stared at the street. Then she nodded. That was enough. Our extended family still acts like I crossed a line. They say Tyler was young. They say Cynthia was only trying to help her son. They say I should have kept family matters inside the family. But family was exactly why I did it. My grandmother was family when she was confused and trusting. My mother was family when she was crying behind her bedroom door. I was family when I begged for basic decency and got laughed at. Funny how family loyalty only became sacred when Tyler faced consequences. I do not know what happened to Ashley after that. I hope she found peace. I hope she never looked back and wondered if she was foolish. She was not. She was lied to by someone who knew how to perform goodness. As for Tyler, I heard he moved in with Cynthia for a while. Then the family gossip turned vague. New plans. New excuses. Another version of the story where nothing was his fault. I stopped asking. My mother still lives in the duplex. She sits on the porch again. She waters the plants. She leaves the curtains open. Sometimes she talks to Grandma's old side like Dorothy can still hear her through the wall. Maybe that sounds strange, but I understand it. This house was never just walls and windows. It was the last promise my grandmother made to my mother. Cynthia and Tyler tried to turn that promise into leverage. They almost succeeded. So when people call me cruel, I let them. When they say I exposed my own cousin, I do not argue. Because they are right. I did expose him. I exposed the way he talked about my grandmother when he thought nobody important was listening. I exposed the way he planned to use Ashley's family. I exposed the truth he was comfortable saying out loud because he believed everyone around him was either too weak, too tired, or too fooled to stop him. Maybe there was a cleaner way. Maybe if we had more money, more time, more proof, or a family with a conscience, things could have ended differently. But I look at my mother now, sleeping through the night in the home her mother meant for her to have, and I cannot make myself feel sorry for the man who tried to take that peace from her. So, did I go too far by sending that video, or did my cousin only lose the life he was building on other people's trust?